What does the science tell us about hydroxychloroquine? And what are the scientists and the doctors saying about it? And this issue is back up in the news for reasons we're about to get into. But I would say this. Anyone who tells you that you are not supposed to have opinions or thoughts on an issue that affects public health and safety like this, and that if you're paying attention, you would see clearly the experts have been wrong repeatedly, and there are a lot of things at work that have nothing to do with your health and safety. Anyone who tells you that is trying to control you. They do not have your best interests at heart. That's for sure. That brings me to this video that I would play the audio for you, but guess what? It has been pulled down. Sent it to producer Mark last night. This video of America's Frontline Doctors, sponsored by the Tea Party Patriots group, and they held a Washington, D.C. press conference. There was a woman, a doctor, who, if you go online, it's fascinating. If you go online and try to find any information about her, it's almost like she doesn't exist. There's really nothing that comes up. They just simply pretend that this whole thing did not happen. And, we are getting pretty close, in my opinion. We're getting pretty close to Dr. Stella Emanuel, I will say, is her name. We're getting close to the kind of Soviet-level propaganda that we all read about in books and say, oh, well, that would never happen here. Really? Because they're pulling stuff off the internet that is an area of public debate, an area of public inquiry, where at a minimum we should be exposed, even if it turns out that they're wrong, we should be exposed to the opposing points of view. How can you really know if what you think is true if ideas that don't line up with it are disregarded out of hand? How could you know? How is it possible to know? They won't give you any answers to that, will they? They'll just say, be quiet, peasant. We the libs control social media, and we will take anything off that we choose to. And that's what they've done. These doctors, I wish I could play for you and you could decide for yourself. Look, I don't know the truth. I don't know. I'm not treating patients. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what's true about hydroxychloroquine, but I know things that are not true about it. Right? And I could start there with you. I know things that are not true, like when there are major news organizations that come forward and say that hydroxychloroquine is not safe and that Trump is touting an unsafe drug. That is a stupid and dangerous lie. That's a lie. And anyone who then says, oh, but look at the side effects. Every drug has side effects. If I tell you, don't take, you have a really bad infection, don't take penicillin, it has side effects, it's unsafe, you would rightly look at me and say, I don't want to die from this bacterial infection, so I'm not going to listen to you. That's stupid. I say, oh, no, but it's unsafe. No drug is entirely safe. Here's an interesting fact. Water, if you drink too much too quickly, water can kill you. Water is lethal. That's a true statement. Depends on what I say about the water, right? Obviously, you can drown, but I'm actually talking about just ingesting too much. You can die from drinking too much water too fast. Does that mean water is unsafe? No, it's a stupid thing to say. That's what Democrats are doing with hydroxychloroquine. Yeah, there are side effects. It has saved. This is a drug that in some places, in some countries, is over the counter. It's a drug that has saved millions and millions of lives from malaria for over 60 years. Malaria is one of the worst public health scourges in the world, which would be a lot less bad if we hadn't had the panic from the environmentalist leftist libs over DDT, but that's another conversation. Oh, the Pink Paradise put up a parking lot. We need to save the earth, save the trees, no DDT. Well, a lot of people died because of that. A lot of people died because we were told that DDT was such a dangerous substance that could not be used. But I digress. So what do we know? What do we know that's not true about hydroxychloroquine? We know it's not true that it's a dangerous drug. It's a drug. All drugs have interactions. All drugs can be toxic at certain doses, and there's always the possibility that someone has an adverse reaction. That's not the same thing as it being dangerous. You can die from eating shrimp if you're allergic. That doesn't mean that shrimp is dangerous, right? It would be a lie to go around saying, oh, you eat shrimp, you're going to die. It's not true. I can't eat bread. Is bread dangerous? Of course not. Bread's not dangerous. But I can't eat it. It's dangerous to me. But it's not a true statement to make, but they will do it anyway, right? That's what they're doing with hydroxychloroquine. So we know that that's one area. We also know that they keep on having to repeal studies or retract statements and different, peer-reviewed trials because they don't do it in the way that the proponents of it keep suggesting. They don't use it as an early stage or even prophylaxis treatment. I know medical doctors in New York City personally who not only gave hydroxychloroquine to their patients, but took it themselves as a prophylaxis when we were overwhelmed here with COVID cases in the hospitals. Are they idiots? Do they not know anything? And the ones that I know are doctors with impeccable credentials that went to top schools and had fantastic board scores for entering medical school. I mean, I'm just telling you, these are really impressive people, and they gave it to their patients and they took it themselves. And the ones that gave it to their patients and it didn't work for those patients kept saying, I'm giving it, by the time the patient shows up, they're already almost gone. I mean, no one's saying that hydroxychloroquine is a miracle cure, right? It's not like the guy in the Green Mile who shows up, puts his hands on you and, sprays out all the little bugs or whatever that are the bad. No one's saying that's what happens, but it might be useful under certain contexts. And obviously this is where people are going to start yelling at me, Buck, also with azithromycin, which is sold under the brand name Zithromax and zinc. So that's a combination drug therapy at an early stage administered that could be useful, that a lot of doctors keep coming out and saying it is useful. I'm also hearing from doctors about using steroids similar to the kind of corticosteroids that they will give you for asthma. Inhalers, effectively, steroid inhalers. Some doctors are saying that that's very useful. Why isn't this getting more attention? Why is it the treatments for COVID-19 aren't getting any? It's always about the vaccine in the far distance. Just shut up, wear a mask, do what you're told. One day we'll get you to a vaccine. What about the fact that the death rate, while we have all-time high cases in the United States, the death rate is a fraction of what it was in the early days of the outbreak? Now, I know there's a lot of different reasons why. How old are the people getting sick? How healthy were they to begin with? We've learned some very basic things, I understand, like ventilators are a really bad idea unless it's an absolute last resort to keep somebody breathing. Right? These are things that doctors have been finding out, but how are we treating this now? What is the protocol for treatment if somebody goes in the hospital with COVID-19? You don't see stories about it. You don't see the media talking about it. Are the doctors that are using these combination therapies or using the inhalers, are they lying? Is that what are they lying? Is that what we're being told? So I'm out here, I'm asking these questions, and I have people who are absolutely convinced that they're really smart, and they believe that a cloth mask worn loosely around their mouth that was probably made in China will protect them from a virus that's less than a micron in size and freely flows in the air, including through the mesh of a mask. They'll believe that, but they won't believe that a drug with a 60-plus year history of saving millions of lives and helping people with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, I believe that's another case for it, but it's helping people for different autoimmune conditions. That can't be helpful. That can't be useful in early stage prevention of virus replication. Who's the crazy side here? I'm not even saying that it's right. I'm just saying, can we find out? The Lancet, which is the most prestigious medical journal in the world, which also recently had a whole thing about mask wearing that was like, about lockdowns rather. That was like, we can't tell you that lockdowns really do anything good. We can't prove it. No one ever ignored that one, but the Lancet had to retract a study that it had published about how hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. The FDA's pulled away emergency use authorization for it. Why? Oh, because of all the media pressure. Because everyone was bowing and bending at the knee on this one. Oh gosh, the doctor said. No, they're not telling us what the doctors say. They're silencing them. And that then brings me to this back and forth over, first of all, the violation of Twitter policies, violation of Facebook and these other social media giants by spreading COVID disinformation. Was it disinformation when health professionals told us don't wear masks? Because they didn't get rid of that. Look at the suppression. This is censorship. These people who think they understand and believe in science don't even know what science is. It's data. It's studies that can be replicated. It's experiments that have a control group. It is what is. It's not what you want it to be. Doesn't matter. They root for a side, and then no matter what, they will pretend that side is science. Well, where does the Fauci come down on all this? Because the president went on a whole retweet storm, not a retweet storm of Buck Sexton this morning. That's kind of a shame. I need another, I want a dozen retweets in a row from the president. That would be fun. My Twitter mentions will be terrifying, but it'll be fun. No, the Fauci. The Fauci is out there. And, he's now like, okay, let's talk about hydroxychloroquine again. Let's have this conversation. I still haven't had anyone explain to me why there are doctors who will come forward and openly say, I really think that for some people this helps and this is saving lives. Are those doctors all paid off? They're not paid off by Big Pharma. Okay, that's not reality. They're not. What do they get out of this? No, it's very clear that people are rooting against hydroxychloroquine for political purposes in the media of the Democrat Party, which is a sociopathic thing to do. We should at least find out real answers here. Saying the FDA pulled its emergency use authorization, that's because the media was all, oh my gosh, it causes heart attacks and people are drinking fish tank cleaner and oh, Trump said this and it's reckless. And the government bureaucracy goes, okay, well, I don't want people showing up at my house like they do at the DHS chief's house. I don't want people, threatening me and my family and my kids because I want to let people use hydroxychloroquine. So I'll pull the FDA authorization from it. These libs are completely insane, folks. They don't care how many people suffer because of their beliefs. They honestly don't care. I care about all the suffering that's happening in the country. I want people to be safe. I want crime to end. I want riots to end. I want COVID to end. That's what I want. That's my first priority. Those are my priorities, even more so than President Trump getting elected. Now, I know you'd say those things are very much linked, but I'm just telling you, if I could wake up tomorrow and, and we had to have a different president, but COVID is gone, the economy's up and running, everyone is safe in the cities, or at least we go back to a greater degree of safety in the cities, I'd say, okay, I want results. I want results that maybe only Trump will be able to give us going forward. But I just mean theoretically, that's what's most important for me. It's not about picking a team. It's about what's best for the country, what's best for the American people. The other side is like, no, we're in power. If I can't have it, nobody can. If I'm not playing with the ball all the time, I'll take it home with me. If I'm not in charge, no one gets to be in charge. That's their approach, even on issues of medicine and science. I can't believe we're being evicted from our home that we didn't even sell. That's what Deborah said when she learned that she was the victim of home title theft. This is a crime that can actually cost you your home. Here's how it works. Your home's title's online, where cyber thieves find it. And guess what? Then they forge your signature and then state that you sold your home to them. You often won't find out about this until the eviction notice arrives. That's actually what happened to Deborah in this story. You got to make sure your home's title is protected. That's why I want you to go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's right, HomeTitleLock.com, and register your address to see if you're a victim and don't even know it. Home Title Lock protects you by creating a virtual barrier around your home's title. Use code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com for 30 free days of protection. That's code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com.
Do you think, given what we're seeing with an increase in cases, that the recovery could be in jeopardy at all, the economic recovery?
I don't think so. I think the recovery has been very strong. We've set record job numbers. We've set record numbers. Whether it's a pure V or a little bit less than that, I think it's going to be very good. If therapeutically we come up with some answers very quickly, which I think we will, then you're going to have a tremendous recovery. Likewise with the vaccines, if you do that by the end of the year, that's ahead of schedule, substantially ahead of schedule, and it's ahead of anything that's ever taken place in terms of vaccines before. So I think if those things happen, if just one of those events happen, you'll go right back into that V, and I think you're probably in the V anyway. I really do believe a lot of the governors should be opening up states that they're not opening, and we'll see what happens with them. But a lot will have to do with the fact that therapeutically, I think you're going to have some great answers, vaccine-wise, likewise.
We'll certainly hope so. Notice how the Democrats have put themselves in a position where, look, let's just call it what it is. They're rooting for at least the vaccine to be delayed until January. Imagine that they have all of these imagine rather that they have the possibility of putting out one of these vaccines to 100 million Americans in October. That would be the earliest that it might be available, but imagine that. And it turns out that they think it has very high efficacy. Now, whether you believe that that's going to end this or not, or whether it's going to be seasonal, just put that aside for a moment. Think of what that'll do to the markets and to optimism, to jobs. Democrats are against it. They don't want that to happen. They want it to be delayed. That's right. We have a race for a vaccine to a pandemic that is killing a lot of people in this country and has killed a lot of people and is still a concern for all of us. All of us, either as individuals or also for our loved ones who are at higher risk. And Democrats are, well, let's not rush this thing too much. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. And so that's why Trump is pushing for, we're going to make vaccines even before we know they're good to go. We're going to make vaccines, and that way, as soon as, they're going to pre-deploy this thing so that as soon as they get the clearance that, yes, this works, yes, this is safe, they're going to go out there and start vaccinating folks. Play 13.
We're mass producing all of the most promising vaccine candidates in advance so that on the day one that it's approved, it'll be available to the American people immediately, and we'll probably have a lot for a lot of other people throughout the world. The world is suffering from this China virus.
That's certainly going to be a different version of the October surprise, right? You get a vaccine deployed before this election, or even know that it's about to be deployed. That changes a lot of the perception, and so then you have to really ask yourself: Are they rooting for success here? No, you hear a lot of partisan stupidity instead from people like Representative Cohen of Tennessee. Play 6.
A lot of people don't wear masks because they think Trump says you don't have to. They think it's macho. They think it's MAGA or something, and they're being rude and they're spreading coronavirus when they're asymptomatic to other people. I was hurt and shocked when I heard that Tennessee might be the explosion point, the next explosion point, because our governor's not ordering people to stay at home, to wear masks, to close bars. We need decisive action from our governor. We need decisive action from our president. We are seeing people die.
I mean, he's a moron. We're just gonna keep on going through this. Wear a mask and the virus doesn't get spread. That's a lie. That's just not true. Does it mitigate the spread a few percentage points? Maybe. This is rooting for failure, folks. This is what Democrats are doing. Rooting for failure. All right, but in the meantime, how do we treat the COVID cases that are out there? How do we try to keep the death toll as low as possible? The Fauci is loose. He's out there making sure, look, I know you saw the pitch. It was not good. It was not a good pitch. It went I went over there, it's like, here I am, supposed to be throwing it over home plate, and instead, it's like I threw it to China. It didn't work. It was bad. Now I sound like the president talking about China, but it was bad. I had a bad pitch. And then the in-style cover, maybe posing for fashion magazines right now is not a top priority for me as the as the number one epidemiologist expert in the public eye, yada, yada, all that stuff. But he got pressed by George Stephanopoulos this morning. Again, another one of these media guys. You go, so you're in the Clinton White House, and now you're like the great news anchor based on what? I still don't understand, but, it is what it is. Some people get lucky in this life, folks, and you know what? You just want to say, all right, well, if they can get lucky, I guess other people can too. More talented, worthier, better folks can get lucky. All of us can get quite lucky. He was asked, the Fauci was asked this morning about this tweet storm from Trump on hydroxychloroquine. They pulled down this video. I watched the video. I can't play it for you. They pulled down the video of these frontline doctors who had this press conference where you had a particularly one doctor who, as I said, you can't even find anything about her online, and we're being told that this had to go, this had to be taken offline because it's misinformation. This is censorship, pure and simple. There are plenty of docs, more docs. Do you have doctors coming forward saying, rub some rhubarb on your arm and COVID will go away? No. Okay. You have a lot of MDs who have come out who said they have used this and it has worked. Now, maybe it's anecdotal. Maybe they just got lucky in those cases, but we should at least be able to talk about this and know, don't we all want treatments to save lives from COVID? No, the answer is a lot of Democrats are like, that really makes things harder for us. We really want maximum suffering. And it's a horrible thing to say, except it is the truth. That is what Democrats have put themselves into, as that is their position on this. But the Fauci was being asked some questions. This is where you're going to get. This is on ABC, the morning show over there. And this is where they set the consensus so that all the libs in Malibu and the Hamptons who are, wear a mask, social distance, yeah, wear a mask. All of them know where they're getting their marching orders. From the Fauci on ABC. He's asked about masks by Stephanopoulos. Play 8.
I have to have you respond, first of all, to those tweets from President Trump that were taken down overnight. First, on that one that said you don't need masks, there is a cure. It's called hydroxychloroquine. Can you just clarify for our viewers the best scientific guidance we have on masks and hydroxychloroquine?
We should all be wearing masks outside, George. This is something that, as you heard Dr. Birx mentioned when she was making a comment, it's very important. There are certain fundamental things we should be doing, particularly if you happen to be in an area where there's viral activity. Wear a mask all the time when you're outside. Social distancing, 6 feet at least. Avoid crowds. Close bars in areas where there's viral activity, and do hand hygiene. There's no question about that. So that's something that's not really arguable.
I think it is arguable. I think it's arguable. Fauci, hold on a second. Wear a mask. He said very clearly, wear a mask outside at all times. Where's the science to support that? And I mean this. Since when were we told you got to wear a mask outside all the time? What if I'm walking alone on the street? There's nobody near me. I'm still supposed to wear a mask? That's lunacy. Lunacy. This is about control. This is about, they say jump, you say how high. They say do push-ups, you say how about 100. There's no science backing this up. He just said wear a mask outside all the time. That's new. That was never what the consensus, such as it is within the scientific community, was. That's absurd. The biggest studies they have of this have shown that outdoor transmission is basically not a factor at all in transmission of this virus. But he's telling you now that this is what the science says? No, this is just what the Democrat Party has decided to believe. Everyone's got to wear a mask. America's sick. America's in bad shape. Vote Biden. That's it. Everyone's got to wear a mask. See, it's a visual representation of conformity and a visual representation of, and it's a mandate, of course, of America's distress. That's what's happening here. That's the reality around us. And he was asked specifically, the Fauci. All right, so first I say something on masks. That's just not true. Or for which there is no evidence. And remember, he's saying outdoor mask all the time. And I've been saying, look, I understand sometimes indoors, maybe it makes you feel better, maybe it helps a little bit, but outdoors is crazy. Everyone kind of was like, yeah, outdoor masking doesn't really. And I mean, maybe if you're going to be in a protest of 1,000 people in close proximity shouting and yelling, but that's not normal human behavior outdoors, right? You don't have to be a part of a massive mob to be outside. That's insane. But now they've just completely changed this, and we're not supposed to notice. Oh, now it's mask wearing outdoors all the time. Okay. And then you got this other one on hydroxychloroquine. Play clip 9.
How about hydroxychloroquine? The president promoting the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine. We know the FDA has recommended against emergency use.
Right. Right, exactly, and I go along with the FDA. The overwhelming prevailing clinical trials that have looked at the efficacy of hydroxychloroquine have indicated that it is not effective in coronavirus disease.
Can he explain more? First of all, I hate this. I go with the FDA. No, we don't want to hear that you go along with the massive federal bureaucracy. We want the reasons. I go with the bureaucracy is not science, but let me put that aside for a moment. Are there substantial clinical trials where this has been used early stage in COVID or as a prophylaxis in COVID? I have seen, and I asked that question honestly. Please send it to me if I'm wrong. I've seen 0 clinical trials of that. 0. What I have seen are a lot of studies where they give people who are deathly ill with COVID-19 hydroxychloroquine, not with zinc, not with the azithromycin in combination, and people die, and then we're told, oh, it doesn't work. All right, well, that's not the use case from the beginning, from the doctors who say it works, has not been that. But you see, the bureaucracy only wants to make effectively a compassionate use argument for people already in the hospital, already on death's door. Okay, fine, you can give them hydroxychloroquine. And then they do that, and they turn around and say, oh, but it doesn't work. Why do these doctors think that it does work in the circumstance that they're describing, which is early on, basically within 48 hours of, you think you've got COVID or you've got symptoms, you go on this protocol. Why do they think? I've never seen an explanation. These doctors are just quacks. They're loons. They've been going on TV for months saying, look, I've used this. It's very effective under the following circumstances. And then we get the media lying to you about how it's a dangerous drug, about how hydroxychloroquine is dangerous. That's a lie. And clearly rooting against it to work. You just say, I thought we were on the same team here, guys. I thought we all just wanted the best possible protocol to limit people's suffering and limit death as much as possible while this pandemic is raging through. No, this is hyper politicized. There was just a doctor last week in Newsweek who published an editorial. He is a Yale epidemiologist, okay? And I'm saying, look, you better print out and save this editorial from him before the social media monopolies and the tech giants erase it from the internet and call it disinformation. Here's this piece. This is in Newsweek. All right. And it's from, as I said, he's an MD, PhD, teaching epidemiology at the Yale School of Public Health. All right. And his name is Harvey Risch. And he says the following. As professor of epidemiology at Yale School of Public Health, I've authored over 300 peer-reviewed publications and currently hold senior positions on the editorial boards of several leading journals. I'm usually accustomed to advocating for positions within the mainstream of medicine, so have been flummoxed to find that in the midst of a crisis, I am fighting for a treatment that the data fully support, but which for reasons having nothing to do with a correct understanding of the science has been pushed to the sidelines. As a result, tens of thousands of patients with COVID-19 are dying unnecessarily. Fortunately, the situation can be reversed easily and quickly. I'm referring, remember, this is in Newsweek. Professor Risch, MD, PhD, Yale School of Public Health, over 300 peer-reviewed articles from this guy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is where we are now. Let me keep going with this. You should hear more of this editorial. I am referring, of course, to the medication hydroxychloroquine. When this inexpensive oral medication is given very early in the course of illness, before the virus has had time to multiply beyond control, it has shown to be highly effective, especially when given in combination with the antibiotics azithromycin or doxycycline and the nutritional supplement zinc. On May 27th, I published an article in the American Journal of Epidemiology, Early Outpatient Treatment of Symptomatic High-Risk COVID-19 Patients Should Be Ramped Up Immediately as Key to the Pandemic Crisis. That article, published in the world's leading epidemiology journal, analyzed 5 studies demonstrating clear-cut and significant benefits to treated patients, plus other very large studies that showed the medication safety. End quote. Where's the Fauci? I want to hear. The American people deserve to have this esteemed MD, PhD from Yale University, who's written 300 peer-reviewed articles. They need to hear from him and Fauci at the same time. You know, we should have him and we should have Fauci on TV, present their cases, and let's see who's right. Fauci told you that these are facts, and the media doesn't want you to remember them. Fauci told you that the virus was going to be no big deal. Fauci told you not to wear a mask. Fauci told you the lockdowns would be short and limited. Fauci told you that we were flattening the curve in places like New York. Flatten the curve. It flattened New York. Everyone got infected, basically, or a huge portion of the city got infected. It's quite an epidemiology breakthrough. And I continue here with this piece. Physicians who have been using these medications in the face of widespread skepticism have been truly heroic. They have done what the science shows is best for their patients, often at great personal risk. I myself know of 2 doctors who have saved lives of hundreds of patients with these medications, but are now fighting state medical boards to save their licenses and reputations. The cases against them are completely without scientific merit. Since publication of my May 27th article, 7 more studies have demonstrated similar benefit. In a lengthy follow-up letter also published by AJE, I discuss these 7 studies and renew my call for the immediate early use of hydroxychloroquine in high-risk patients. These 7 studies include an additional 400 high-risk patients treated by Dr. Vladimir Zelenko with 0 deaths, 4 studies totaling almost 500 high-risk patients treated in nursing homes and clinics across the U.S. with no deaths, a controlled trial of more than 700 high-risk patients in Brazil with significantly reduced hospitalization and 2 deaths among 334 patients treated with hydroxychloroquine, and another study of 398 matched patients in France, also with significantly reduced hospitalization risk. My letter was published. Even more doctors have reported to me since then their successful use of this. Beyond these studies of individual patients, we have seen what happens in large populations when these drugs are used. These have been natural experiments. In the northern Brazil state of Pará, COVID-19 deaths were increasing exponentially. On April 6th, the public hospital network purchased 75,000 doses of azithromycin and 90,000 doses of hydroxychloroquine. Over the next few weeks, authorities began distributing these medications to infected individuals. Even though new cases continued to occur, on May 22nd, the death rate started to plummet and is now 1/8 what it was at the peak. Why has hydroxychloroquine been disregarded? Well, we all know the answer to that. First of all, the medicine has been highly politicized. For many, it has become viewed as a marker of political identity on both sides of the spectrum. Nobody needs to remind them that that is not how medicine should proceed. We must judge this medication strictly on the science. Secondly, the drug has not been used properly in many studies. Hydroxychloroquine has showed major success when used early in high-risk people, but as one would expect in an antiviral, much less success when used later in the disease course. It has demonstrated significant benefit in large hospital studies in Michigan and New York when started within the first 24 to 48 hours after admission. We got to get into this some more. So I really mean this. Now, I know I usually don't read you big chunks of an editorial, and I understand that we were getting pretty in the weeds with that one, but is he crazy? Is he lying? What is it that Dr. Fauci knows that this esteemed, highly credentialed medical doctor does not know? What is it? I mean, I'm really serious about this. Why is Fauci so dismissive? All the data, all the science. Really? Because this guy seems to thoroughly disagree. No, but Democrats know that to create a false perception of scientific consensus is a very powerful tool for policy and for control. There are questions. I don't know. I'm not telling you that we have already proven that hydroxychloroquine can do X or Y or Z. I don't know. But I do know this. The people who are telling you that it is clearly worthless have lied to you. They are lying to us. And they have a very large incentive to continue that lie going forward.